Hello, I'm here today to give you a video answering some questions about the argument essay. This essay is due the 14th, Thursday the 14th, just like all the other work. Just a reminder that I'm still taking any late work and that I'm not taking too many points off for lateness. So anything you think you can get done before the end of the semester, do your best with it, try to get some stuff in, and I think we'll be okay in terms of grades. Get in touch with me if you have any questions about your grade, what it is right now, or what you should focus on trying to get in before the semester ends to help your grade the most. Send me an email, and let's get into the questions for today. So let's get into the first question. It says here, for my argumentative essay, I'm having a hard time starting it. I'm mostly struggling with the thesis statement. It needs to cover what I'm going to be talking about in my essay, which is immigration. I don't know how I would make this into an argumentative essay. Okay, I think a lot of people are having trouble starting, maybe not just this essay, but a lot of work. So, like I've said before, I think it's really important for us to be making lists and schedules for ourselves to try to keep everything on track. In terms of starting this essay, I would say pick a topic that you have some interest in. You can take a look back at the assignment sheet where I gave you a couple of options that are really broad, though. I gave you a lot of freedom with this, which it seems like this person did since we're talking about immigration. So once you have the topic, the way I would turn it into more of an argument is to try to argue for a specific solution to the problem, right? And I'm not asking you to come up with a brand new immigration system or something like that, but just something specific that could be done that would make this problem better in some way. If there's some kind of rule regarding immigration, I know there's probably like limits on the number of people that they allow into the country and stuff, or the amount of money that it costs. I feel like it probably costs a lot of money, or people have to wait a really long time. So maybe if you can find like some specific solutions to problems like those, then that could be something that you can argue for in a 4-page essay. So I think the biggest way to turn it into an argument is to focus on a solution. In terms of getting the topic, I would try to pick a problem, right? And then you'll be arguing for the solution. Like I mentioned before, maybe you want to spend a paragraph or 2 or 3 towards the beginning explaining what the problem is and why it's so important, just so your audience has some context going into it. But then the main focus of your essay should be arguing for the solution that you think is the best one and giving us reasons why you're correct about this and trying to convince the audience that your solution, is the one that we need. And once you do get an argument that's kind of going to be your thesis, from there I would try to start making a list of what some of your paragraphs could be about. What are specific points that you know you're going to have to make to try to convince the audience of your main argument? And maybe try to get a little outline going with, so you know what paragraph one's going to be about, paragraph two. And I think getting a little bit of brainstorming, a little bit of organizing done like that, it will make writing the essay itself a lot easier. Okay, let's keep moving here. Question number 2. My question is, when choosing the essay that has to do with choosing an art, can we put the picture in our essay? Also, when choosing, it has to be related to the book of Cephiada or related to school or political. So in terms of if you are writing about art, including a picture, yeah, definitely. If you're writing about, some kind of visual art, I think it'd be cool to have a picture. Really for any of your essays, maybe it would be cool to have some kind of picture or maybe a graph or a chart, depending what you're doing. But I think that'd be cool for this essay. I'm into that. In terms of writing about the art, first of all, for this essay, no, you don't have to talk about Independence Day by Cephiada. That was for our last essay, the literary analysis essay, which hopefully you should have turned in by now, but I'm still accepting it. But yeah, the Cephiada story, that was just for that last essay. You don't have to focus on that for this essay. If you wanted to write about for art for this essay, that I think it was the third option I had, where you could do kind of another analysis essay about art. What I would do there is kind of what I talked about in some of the stuff for the literary analysis essay, in terms of you want to take a piece of art and your essay should be arguing, should still be an argumentative essay. You should be arguing what message you think the piece of art is sending. What is the piece of art trying to show the audience about a certain topic? For Independence Day, we talked about things like gender and protesting, and those are topics that come up a lot in that story. And then you want to ask the question, well, what is it trying to say about these topics? What's the takeaway for the audience, about protesting, about gender for that story? So if you wanted to do that option for this essay, you could do that same thing of looking for a message, making an argument. This is what it's trying to tell us, but you could use any piece of art and argue for any message that you think it's sending. So that's kind of what I had in mind with that option on the assignment sheet. In terms of being related to school or something political, if you see a political message in a piece of art, you could do that. But those were kind of the other options I was giving, where you could find a problem about college or a problem about the world in general and try to argue for a solution. So I wouldn't combine the options necessarily. But yeah, those are kind of the three things that you can choose from. Okay, on to our next question. My question is, will adding the opposing side to your argument make your argument stronger? I think it depends what you mean by adding the opposing side. So I think sometimes when students talk about this, what they mean is like, they're arguing for their side, and then they just stick in one paragraph where it's like, here's what other people say, and it's just kind of this one paragraph in your essay that's showing the opposing view. Doing it that way, I don't think really makes the argument any stronger. To me, for this to work, so it can work, the way to do it would be to show why the opposing side is wrong. So you don't just want to include the opposing view and say, oh, some people think this and some people think this. You need to have your side, right? You have your side of the argument, and it could be a good idea to address the other side, but in addressing them, you just want to show why they're wrong and why you're right. So it's very important with your thesis that it's definitely one side of the argument, and that you're not just like, oh, or you could think that. It's like, no, this is the way to think about it. If you think about it this way, you're just incorrect. So I think it is important to address a counter argument, though, because if you think that your reader, while they're reading your essay, might be thinking, oh, but what about this? Well, I see what you're saying, but you didn't think about this point. If you think your reader might have some objections to what you're saying, if you think they might have a counter argument themselves that they might be thinking about in the back of their head, then yeah, it would make sense to say, okay, I know what you're thinking. I know that you might think that it makes sense for this reason, but here's why that's wrong. So yeah, definitely, it's a good question. Addressing a counter argument is a really good strategy in an argumentative essay, but you just want to make sure that you're showing us why that other argument is wrong. Don't just put it in there. Don't just include it to say that, some people think this. Show us specifically why your argument's right, why the opposite argument is wrong. And then, yeah, I think it works pretty well. Okay, and let's go now to our last question. This one reads, since I'm arguing about college textbooks over how expensive it is there a way for me to bring up personal encounters with expensive books? Can I say, for example, this reminds me of a time when I had to pay around $100 for a textbook with only a handful of pages? Yeah, so the short answer is yes. There definitely is a place for personal experiences in an argument essay. If you go back and watch the video that I put out about the argument essay originally, I kind of made a list of all the different argumentative strategies that people use, or just some of them at least. And an anecdote was one of them. An anecdote is telling a personal story that backs up your point. So yeah, that is something that you can include. Obviously, you want to make sure that you have more evidence than just that, though, right? The problem, anecdotes are good because they can be relatable to the reader, and they have kind of an emotional response. But it's just one experience, right? So other people could have had a different experience. So you don't want that to be your only piece of evidence, but it can definitely be a piece of evidence. I think that can work. I would say though, just for this person, that you want to make sure that you're arguing for a solution here, right? So when you say you're arguing about college textbooks and how it's expensive, the argument is not that college textbooks are expensive, right? I think that's pretty clear. That's not really debatable. They just are expensive. The argument would come in when you try to say, and here's what we could do about it, and here's a solution that we could try to provide. And I think that's something that, one of the reasons that I frame the essay this way in terms of a problem and then a solution is because it's really important to be a problem solver, to be able to find solutions to things, or at least, look for them and see what other people have done and then kind of just figure out what you think is the best. Not just for this essay, not even just for school, but really just for like having a job in general. If you work in an office or something, and you're the person who can just figure it out, whatever it is, if it's a problem, a technological problem, or a problem with getting a certain product, or whatever, something with customers. If you're the person who's just like, no, I'll figure it out, I will just solve the problem. I can, look at the different things that are going on here and be able to just figure out a solution. You can, make your way up with that kind of approach. So I think it's really important for all of us to kind of think about being problem solvers in many different ways. So that's kind of why I framed it this way, and I would really want to make sure for all of us that you are arguing for a solution to the problem that you're identifying. Like some of the examples that we saw here, if it's college textbooks, if it's immigration, don't just tell us like this is a problem. Like people know these things are problems. The part where the argument really comes in is like, and this is how we could solve it. This is one thing I think should be done to fix this problem. Because again, you don't have to totally solve everything about it. That would be a whole book, not just a little essay. So try to pick something really specific about the problem that you're looking at and argue for a solution for something, maybe even something simple that would fix a certain part of that problem. And I think that's going to be the best way to approach this. So that's all that I have for you today. I would encourage you all just to remember all the things that we've said about writing essays through the semester in terms of introductions, kind of giving a little preview of what your essay is going to be about, try to let us know what your main idea is, having your body paragraphs that all connect back to your thesis. That's really one of the most important things, is making sure that every paragraph that you write goes back to that main argument and advances it in a clear way that the audience can understand. Especially at the end of your paragraphs, it's always a good move to go back and say, hey, here's how everything I've been saying relates to the thesis. Just make sure they don't miss it. It's always better to be like too clear or over-explain a little bit even than to under-explain. The worst thing that can happen is that the reader finishes your paragraph and they're like, I don't know how that fits into the argument. What does that have to do with the paragraph before? What does that have to do with the introduction? So you just want to be as clear as you really can be as far as that goes. In terms of doing the research, make sure you go back and look at the links that I posted for research, the databases that you can get on through the website, and just do your best in terms of searching for something, whatever topic that you're looking at. It's always a good move to find some kind of statistics or evidence. Again, like the example we had of immigration, there's probably a lot of statistics you could find about why immigration is a problem, or also solutions that other people are talking about. That's another really great way to use research here, is to look for other solutions that people have suggested and see, if you like any of them or if you totally disagree with them, or if one of them's kind of good but could use a little bit of a twist, and then that can be the solution you're arguing for. You would want to look for what other people are saying, any kind of statistic that can help you give information. And I think those are all good ways to get some research involved here. So keep sending me questions, and I'll be on my email, and I'll talk to you all soon.